What's up everyone, Zane here, and welcome to my results from killing rune dragons for 10 hours with ranged. And just a quick note, we started with 97 ranged and 95 hit points, and we ended with 98 ranged and 96 hit points. But with that said, let's go ahead and get straight into the loot. So as you can see, this is our overall loot from doing 10 hours of rune dragons, and you can see it comes out to 17.8 mil in total. We did 384 kills from the bones and the bars, and most of the drop table actually reminds me a lot of Brutal Black Dragons. It's very good loot, nothing really bad that they dropped, to be honest. As you can see, lots of different items of high value here, and probably the most important one out of all of these is the Dragon Metal Lump, which actually has a 1 in 5,000 drop chance. It's a very rare item to get, so we were quite lucky to get that during our 10 hours. With that said though, this is roughly about the average you could expect overall if you do this for a much longer period of time. So with that said, let's get into the other stats. So just a quick update before we get into the stats. I literally just sold all of the items and it came out to 28.7 mil instead, which baffles me because the Dragon Metal Lump, as far as I was concerned, wouldn't really have a value, but when I put it into the G to sell it, it sold for 15 mil rather than around 4 mil that it was supposed to sell for, which has dramatically changed the price checker obviously. So just note actually that this was worth a lot more, but I do have to actually add an asterisk to say that we were incredibly lucky to get the Dragon Metal Lump. And I know I literally just said that on average you'd expect to get what I showed you in the last screen, which was true, but you wouldn't expect to get on average what I'm showing you in this screen. That would only be over a very, very long period of time. Anyway, with that dramatic twist noted, let's go ahead and get into the stats for realsies now. So in terms of experience, this is very mediocre to even slightly worse than mediocre on average, because the experience you're pulling in is roughly the same to even slightly less than killing a boss like Vorkath. So it's really not a great method if you're looking to train your stats up. It will give you some passive experience, but that wouldn't be the main reason why you'd come here. In terms of the loot, I obviously got insanely lucky and ended up profiting around 2.1 mil per hour, even after the quite hefty supply cost. Whilst that's obviously very good, on average you might expect to make around 1 mil per hour over the short term, and on average 1.2 to 1.3 mil overall over a much longer period of time as you factor in the rarer drop. Just keep in mind that when I say an average over a much longer period of time, I do mean over a much longer period of time, because it takes so long to kill these dragons. In order to actually hit all of the rare drops based on an average luck, you need to be doing this for around 220 hours, and so again in the short term you'd expect to make a lot less money because you're a lot less likely to see any of the rare drops that bump up your GP per hour. And finally, in terms of the additional stats, there's not too much to say. Obviously the kills per hour are quite low compared to some other monsters. It's actually a lot more comparable to killing a boss than killing a normal monster really, because they have such high defense levels. And obviously the profit per kill is skewed quite heavily by the fact that I got that Dragon Metal Lump. You might expect on average a profit per kill much closer to 30k or 25k instead, again in the short term. When it comes to assessing the method, I have a few things to say and not a lot of it is very good. Obviously I used range, so keep in mind if you're using melee your experience might be slightly different, but I found that contrary to popular belief, these were not AFK at all. To the contrary, they were so intensive that I actually had to bring carob wands as combo food just in order to survive, because they can deal such hefty damage, and they have such high defensive stats, and they have a massive health pool to boot. And I did keep an eye on the people using melee here. A lot of them were using really, really high tier gear. We're talking Justices and Grazi Rapiers, and they still seem to be struggling quite a lot. It wasn't an AFK thing at all, and I saw quite a few deaths from other people. So this seems like it is a much more intensive method than most people seem to think it is, so do keep that in mind. In terms of summarising this, the first thing I do need to stress again is that you have a very high initial cost both in your gear and in your supply cost as well. Keep in mind that the gear I used wasn't actually ideal. I was using Blessed D'hide instead of Armadil, and an anti-dragon shield instead of something like a Skeletal Visage. So again, keep in mind if you're not already incredibly rich going into this, you're going to struggle to kill these efficiently. In terms of the money we made, obviously it was incredibly good GP per hour for me because I got very lucky, but on average you're getting closer to 1 mil to 1.2 mil, which for such a high tier method, although it sounds a bit ridiculous to say, actually isn't that good, because you have to consider that if you were to spend this much money on this gear and go to Vorkath instead, you'd make double to even slightly more than double the amount of money you'd make here, with roughly the same amount of effort. Basically for the effort versus reward you're likely better off doing Vorkath, and for similar results, yeah, it being more AFK and with slightly less gear requirements, you're actually better off going to Brutal Black Dragons if you're looking for short term profit. Overall, this obviously produced very good results for me personally because I got very lucky. On average, it would produce perfectly respectable results as well, but it falls flat because this is a very, very late game method, and basically as far as I can tell, the competition is just better. And with all of that said, that is it for this video, so I do hope you enjoyed and found it interesting. And as always, if there is anything else you'd like to see me cover, feel free to drop me a line down below and I will do my best to make it happen. And on that note, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to Reddit user Mega Arms. Thank you for giving me the suggestion for this video. So that's it from me. Hope you're all having a wonderful day and I will see you all next time. Bye guys.